So when you get your paintbrush, it's gonna start off hard, but that's just the wax, and you're just gonna melt it when you put it back into the wax. So I'm gonna put the paintbrush in the wax, but if you have a small crock pot, you don't wanna put your paintbrush on the bottom of it at all. You wanna hold it above the bottom, because if you touch it on the bottom, it could burn it really badly, and then we can't use it. And anyone who's close, you can see the bubbles coming up from the wax melting on the brush. And now I can kind of use it like a regular brush. It's not hard anymore. So you have to move pretty fast whenever you're doing this, because the wax will harden really fast. So I'm gonna wipe it on there. This is kind of a big brush. But see, it hardens really fast. Like I wasn't even able to finish that circle. So you want to move kind of quick, but you don't want to move too fast either. So every time I'm pulling it out, I'm just going to wipe it so it doesn't drip. Because I kind of dripped it on there a little. And I'm starting with my big shapes first. Why do you think I'm starting with my big shapes?
It's easier, I guess.
Yeah. Because when you're first doing it, you don't want to start out with like the tiniest, most intricate thing. Because then you might mess it up. You want to start with the bigger stuff. And you also want to think about your brush size too.
And when we're waxing, we'll have for you, you need to wax on a board. And then on top of that board, you need to use newspaper. And then on top of the newspaper will be your fabric. So that's kind of how you'll set up. And you can even kind of leave it on there.
Yeah,
You can
board under here.
take it off. And when you're finished waxing, I would keep your batik on the newspaper. But you can take it off the board, and that way we can spray it and someone else can use it. So it doesn't have to go in your flat file because you won't have any room. So why do you think she has to go fast? She said it for a second, but why do you think she has to go quickly?
Because it dries quickly.
It does, because have y'all ever seen like a candle when you blow it out and then it cools? It's because it kind of gets hard again. It dries, it cools, it's not liquid anymore, it's not hot anymore. So if you go too slowly from the crock pot, you go dip, and then you start painting, it's going to already have solidified and gotten cool, and then you can't paint with it anymore. So while it's hot and liquid, that's when you paint the designs with it. But if you go too slowly, it will cool. And you go ahead.
You can tell that it waxed it well when it's dark. When it looks dark like that.
You know it was hot enough when it's nice and dark.
And you can see all your pencil line, or you can see your lines. And your pencil lines kind of disappear.
And see how long she's holding that in the pot for? She holds it for about 5 seconds. So it's not like paint where you dip it in like in water and then you kind of move. You have to hold it in there and kind of count to 5, because what's happening is the wax needs to melt onto the brush and get good and hot and kind of bendy and kind of liquidy. And then you can move it. It's got to kind of stay hot enough for you to get it to the fabric. But if you just dip it, it's not going to do anything to it. It's just going to build cold wax up on it. So you can't draw with it. So you can see now why we were saying simple is kind of good, less is more, because it's a lot of steps. It's just kind of back and forth. And you can get it done, and we give you time to get it done. So all these little shapes too are going to be where the color goes. So that's another reason why we said don't do just lines, because you can't fill the lines in. You want to have places for all your color. That little newspaper is very helpful so that you don't drip wax where you don't want it.
Because if you do, then that spot will never be able to be dyed.
That's right.
And then also, if you don't want to put anything in there, like if you mess up when you're drawing or something, instead of erasing it, you can just remember what you did and then kind of just not put wax on it, because it'll go away with the dye. So that's what I did with that shape, because I kind of messed it up.
Mm-hmm. And if you've already waxed an area, you really don't have to wax back over it. Like if it's not shown up very dark, the more you build wax on it, it's not really going to help it. It's actually going to hurt it. It's going to make the design probably flake off more, because the more layers are on it, it's going to kind of peel it off. And it's going to be kind of tempting, like if you've ever like gotten sunburn and your skin starts to peel and you kind of, you start like picking at it a little bit. Don't peel that wax off. Do not do that, because that's your design. So once it's dried on there, leave it, because you're just undoing all the work you did. Mm-hmm. So when you're finished with